Have you ever trusted someone with your children, only to discover they were plotting to take them away from you? That the person you welcomed into your home was secretly building a case to prove you were an unfit mother? I'm Catherine Foster, and my mother-in-law spent 18 months systematically trying to steal my children, never knowing that the teddy bear in my daughter's room had a camera that recorded every cruel word, every manipulation, every moment of her plan to destroy me. Before we dive into this, I need to know, where are you watching from right now? Are you a parent? Maybe dealing with difficult in-laws yourself? Taking a break from the chaos of family life? Drop your location in the comments. I want to know who's here with me, because this story, it's about the terrifying reality of grandparents' rights, toxic family dynamics, and how far someone will go when they believe children belong to them. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why documenting everything matters. Let me take you back to where it all began. Portland, Oregon, 2019. I was 31 years old, married to Daniel Foster, with 2 kids, Emma, age 5, and Luke, age 3. We lived in a small 3-bedroom house in southeast Portland, the kind of neighborhood with tree-lined streets and families on every block. Daniel worked as a software engineer for a tech startup downtown, pulling in about $95,000 a year. I'd left my job as a marketing coordinator when Emma was born, planning to go back once both kids were in school. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable, happy. Or so I thought. Daniel's mother, Patricia, had always been involved. That's the polite word. The real word is controlling. From the moment Daniel and I got engaged, Patricia made it clear she had opinions about everything. The wedding was too casual. My dress wasn't elegant enough. We shouldn't honeymoon in Costa Rica, too dangerous. We were buying the wrong house in the wrong neighborhood. "Catherine, dear," she'd say with that smile that never reached her eyes, "I'm only trying to help. I've been through all this before. I know what's best." When I got pregnant with Emma, it escalated. Patricia had opinions about my prenatal care, my birth plan, my nursery decorations. She showed up at doctor's appointments I hadn't invited her to. She bought baby items without asking, then acted hurt when I said we'd already gotten those things. "I'm going to be this baby's grandmother. I have rights too." Rights. That word should have been my first warning. After Emma was born, Patricia was at our house constantly, every single day for the first month. She'd let herself in with the spare key Daniel had given her, without asking me, and reorganize my kitchen, critique my parenting, offer helpful suggestions about everything I was doing wrong. "You're holding her wrong. That's not how you burp a baby. You shouldn't let her cry like that. I raised 3 children. I think I know what I'm doing." Daniel thought she was being helpful. "Mom just wants to be involved," he'd say. "She loves Emma. That's a good thing." But it didn't feel like love. It felt like ownership. When Luke was born 2 years later, it got worse. Patricia started keeping the kids overnight every weekend, something that started as occasional babysitting but became an expectation. If I said we wanted the kids home for the weekend, she'd pout. She'd call Daniel at work to complain. She'd show up anyway and insist the kids needed grandma time. "Every child needs their grandmother. You're not going to keep them from me, are you, Catherine?" The way she said my name always felt like an insult. Things reached a breaking point in March 2021. I was having a hard time. Postpartum depression that had never fully lifted after Luke's birth, anxiety about money and Daniel's long work hours, struggling to manage 2 young kids alone most days. I should have gotten help. I should have talked to a therapist, but I was barely holding it together, trying to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law. One Tuesday afternoon, I was at my wit's end. Emma had been defiant all day, Luke wouldn't stop crying, the house was a disaster, and I hadn't showered in 3 days. I called Daniel at work, crying. "I can't do this today. I just need a break. Can you come home early?" "Babe, I'm in the middle of a project launch. Can you call my mom?" I didn't want to call Patricia, but I was desperate, so I called. She arrived 20 minutes later with that knowing look on her face, the look that said, "I knew you couldn't handle this." "Catherine, you look exhausted," she said, not unkindly, but not kindly either. "Why don't you go take a nap? I'll handle the children." I slept for 4 hours. When I woke up, she'd cleaned my entire house, fed the kids, bathed them, and put them to bed. "Thank you," I said, genuinely grateful. "I don't know what I'd do without your help." "That's what family is for," she said, then casually, as if it meant nothing, "You know, Daniel and I have been talking. He's concerned about how much you're struggling. We think it might be good if the children stayed with me more often, just until you're feeling better." "What?" "Just temporarily. A few weeks, maybe. You clearly need rest. I have the space. The children love being at Grandma's house. It would give you time to get yourself together." "I don't need to get myself together. I had one bad day." "Catherine," her voice went cold, "I've watched you for weeks now. You're overwhelmed. You're not coping. The children need stability, and right now, you're not providing it. Get out of my house." "Excuse me? Get out of my house." She left, but not before saying, "Daniel will hear about this, and he'll agree with me. Those children need better than what you're giving them right now." When Daniel came home, she'd already called him. They'd talked for an hour before he even walked in the door. "Catherine, Mom's right. You're not okay. Maybe having the kids stay with her for a while." "Are you insane? She wants to take our children. She wants to help. She wants to replace me. Can't you see that? She's been trying to push me out since the day we got married." We fought for hours. He didn't understand. He thought his mother was being generous, helpful. He thought I was being paranoid and ungrateful. That night, I knew something had to change, but I didn't realize how bad it was about to get. After that fight, Patricia's behavior shifted. She wasn't trying to hide her intentions anymore. She started documenting everything. Every time I raised my voice at the kids, normal parenting frustration, she'd make a note on her phone. Every time the house wasn't perfectly clean, she'd take photos. Every time I looked tired or stressed, she'd mention it to Daniel. "Your mother called today," Daniel would say. "She's worried about you." "She's building a case. Can't you see that?" "A case for what, Catherine? You sound paranoid." Maybe I did sound paranoid, but paranoia is just pattern recognition when you're being targeted. Patricia started pushing for more and more time with the kids. Every weekend became the expectation, not the exception. Then she wanted them on Wednesday nights, too. Then she suggested keeping them for spring break. "They're so happy at Grandma's house," she'd tell Daniel. "They have their own rooms, new toys, a big backyard. At your house, they're cooped up with a mother who can barely get out of bed." That last part was a lie. I was struggling, yes, but I was functioning. I was taking care of my kids. But Patricia was rewriting reality, creating a narrative where I was incompetent and she was the savior. In June 2021, Daniel sat me down for a serious talk. "Catherine, I think you need to see a therapist. Mom thinks—" "I don't care what your mother thinks. She thinks you might have postpartum depression, and honestly, I think she's right. You're not yourself. You're angry all the time. You're not taking care of yourself. The house is always a mess." "The house is a mess because I'm raising 2 small children alone while you work 60 hours a week and your mother undermines every single thing I do." "She's trying to help. She's trying to take them from me, Daniel. Why can't you see that?" But he couldn't see it, or wouldn't. His mother had been his whole life growing up. She'd raised him alone after his father died when Daniel was 10. He was loyal to her in a way that made it impossible for him to see her manipulation. I did go to a therapist, not because Patricia said to, but because I needed someone to talk to who wasn't invested in Daniel's family dynamics. Dr. Stevens was a middle-aged woman who specialized in family therapy and postpartum mental health. "Tell me what's happening," she said in our first session. I told her everything: the constant intrusion, the criticism, the way Patricia was systematically documenting my failures, the pressure to let the kids stay with her more and more often. "This sounds like a potential grandparents' rights situation," Dr. Stevens said carefully. "In Oregon, grandparents can petition for visitation or even custody under certain circumstances." My blood ran cold. What circumstances? If they can prove the parents are unfit, or if they can establish that they've been a primary caregiver and it's in the children's best interest to maintain that relationship. Has your mother-in-law been providing significant care for the children? She babysits a lot. Daniel gave her a key to our house. She's there all the time. Catherine, I want you to consider something carefully. It's possible your mother-in-law is building documentation to petition for custody or visitation rights. The photos, the notes, the emphasis on your struggles, these are all things that could be used in court. What do I do? Document everything too. Keep a journal, note every interaction, every conversation. If possible, record things. And Oregon is a one-party consent state for recordings. Protect yourself and your children. I left that appointment terrified but determined. Dr. Stevens had given me something Patricia didn't expect: awareness of the game being played. That night, I went online and bought 3 nanny cams, small cameras hidden in ordinary objects: a teddy bear for Emma's room, a clock for Luke's room, and a picture frame for the living room. They connected to an app on my phone, recording continuously to cloud storage. I set them up the next day while Patricia was at her bridge club. I didn't tell Daniel. Something in my gut said he'd tell his mother, even if he didn't mean to. The cameras went live on June 15, 2021. 3 days later, they captured something that made my blood run cold. Patricia had let herself into our house while Daniel was at work and I'd taken the kids to the park. She walked through our home with her phone, narrating like she was documenting a crime scene. Living room is a disaster. Toys everywhere, dishes piled in the sink from yesterday, clearly not maintaining the home. She opened our bedroom door. Bed unmade, laundry on the floor. This is the environment those poor children are living in. Poor children, my babies who were happy and healthy and loved. She went into Emma's room, straightening things, and spoke directly to the teddy bear, not knowing it was a camera. "Don't worry, Emma Bear. Grandma's going to make sure you get to live somewhere clean and safe, somewhere with someone who actually wants to take care of you. Your mommy's sick, and your daddy works too much, so Grandma's going to fix everything." My hands shook watching the footage. She was planning something big. Over the next few weeks, the cameras captured more. Patricia telling Emma that Mommy gets sad sometimes and that's why she yells, planting ideas that I was unstable. Patricia telling Luke that Grandma's house is better because Grandma has time for you, teaching him to prefer her home over ours. Patricia going through our mail, photographing bills and financial statements. Patricia searching our bedroom, opening drawers, looking for what? Evidence? Medication? Proof I was unfit? And then the worst one, the conversation I recorded on July 18th, 2021. Patricia was on the phone with someone, her lawyer, I later learned. She was in my living room having let herself in while we were at a birthday party. "Yes, I've been documenting everything for 6 months now. The house is always filthy. She screams at the children constantly. I'm providing the majority of their care. I have photos, I have my own testimony, and Daniel will support me. I'm seeking full custody with supervised visitation for Catherine. She's clearly having a mental breakdown. Those children aren't safe with her. I can file next month? Good. I want this done before she realizes what's happening. Full custody. She was planning to sue for full custody of my children. I sat in my car in the grocery store parking lot watching this footage on my phone, and I couldn't breathe. This wasn't my imagination. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. My mother-in-law was trying to legally steal my children. I didn't tell Daniel right away. I needed proof he couldn't dismiss, couldn't explain away, couldn't blame on my paranoia. I compiled everything the nanny cams had captured over 6 weeks, 15 hours of footage, organized by date and category. Patricia entering our home without permission, Patricia documenting our failures, Patricia coaching the kids to prefer her home, Patricia literally planning to sue for custody. I also documented everything myself, like Dr. Stevens had suggested. Times Patricia showed up uninvited, texts where she demanded the kids for weekends, conversations where she'd criticized my parenting, financial records showing Daniel and I were stable, our bills paid, our children provided for. I made copies of everything and gave them to Dr. Stevens, who agreed to testify if needed that I was mentally sound and a capable parent. Then I called a family law attorney. Her name was Rebecca Tam, and she specialized in grandparents' rights cases. "This is serious," Rebecca said after reviewing the recordings. "Your mother-in-law has been building a custody case. In Oregon, grandparents can petition for custody if they can prove it's in the children's best interest and that the parents are unfit or unwilling to care for them." "But I'm not unfit." "I know, but she's creating a narrative, and she's been providing significant care, which gives her standing to file. The good news is you have evidence of her true motivations. These recordings show she's not concerned about the children's welfare. She's concerned about control." "What do I do?" "First, revoke her access to your home. Change the locks. Second, limit her contact with the children. Third, tell your husband everything. He needs to choose his mother or his family." That night, I sat Daniel down and showed him everything. He watched the first few videos with skepticism, then confusion, then horror. She's in our house without permission? She has a key, the one you gave her. But she's cleaning, she's helping." "Daniel, keep watching." When he got to the footage of Patricia on the phone with her lawyer talking about seeking full custody, his face went white. "She's planning to sue us?" "She's planning to take our children. She thinks she can prove I'm unfit and you're too busy to care for them. She's been building this case for months." He watched the rest in silence. When it was over, he sat with his head in his hands for a long time. "I didn't see it," he said finally. "You kept telling me, and I didn't see it. I thought she was being helpful. I thought you were being ungrateful. She's your mother. You trusted her." "I chose her over you." He looked up, tears in his eyes. "Catherine, I chose my mother over my wife and kids. I let her into our home, into our lives, and she was planning to destroy our family." "What do we do now?" He stood up, his jaw set in a way I hadn't seen before. "We protect our kids. We stop her." The next morning, we changed the locks. We sent Patricia a certified letter, drafted by Rebecca, informing her that she was no longer welcome in our home without invitation, and that visitation with the children would be limited to supervised visits at our discretion. Patricia showed up 3 hours after the letter was delivered. I heard her trying her key in the lock, confused when it didn't work, then pounding on the door. "Daniel! Catherine! Open this door! Why doesn't my key work? Daniel!" Daniel opened the door but blocked her from entering. "Mom, we need to talk." "Why did you change the locks? Do you know how humiliating this is? I tried to come see my grandchildren and I couldn't get in my own..." "In the house. It's not your house. Daniel said quietly. It's our house, and we know what you've been planning. Her face went very still. What are you talking about? We know you've been building a custody case. We know you've been going through our home without permission, talking to a lawyer about taking our children. Daniel, sweetheart, I'm worried about Catherine's mental health. Someone needs to... We have recordings, Mom, of you going through our house, of you telling Emma and Luke that we're not good parents, of you on the phone with your lawyer planning to sue for full custody. The color drained from Patricia's face. You recorded me? You entered our home without permission and documented us without permission. Yes, we recorded you in our own home. How dare you? How dare I? Daniel's voice rose. How dare you plan to steal my children, to tell my wife she's unfit a mother, to sneak into our house and build a legal case behind our backs? I'm their grandmother. I have rights. You have the rights we give you, and right now you have none. Patricia's mask finally slipped. The sweet, concerned grandmother disappeared, replaced by someone cold and furious. You'll regret this, she hissed. Both of you. I'll sue anyway. I'll tell the court everything, how Catherine can't cope, how you're never home, how those children need me. I've been documenting for months. I have evidence. So do we, I said, stepping beside Daniel. We have evidence of you trespassing, of you coaching the children to prefer you over their parents, of you admitting on camera that this isn't about the children's welfare, it's about control. No court will believe. They'll believe the recordings, Rebecca said, stepping out from behind me. She's Mrs. Foster's attorney, and I'm advising her to seek a restraining order if you continue to harass this family or contact the children without supervised permission. Patricia looked between the three of us, realizing she'd lost. Daniel, I'm your mother. I raised you alone. How can you do this to me? You did this to yourself, Mom, Daniel said, and I heard his voice break. You could have been a grandmother. Instead, you tried to steal my kids. I can't forgive that. She left, but not before saying, this isn't over. And it wasn't. Patricia filed for grandparents' rights visitation 2 weeks later. In Oregon, grandparents can petition for court-ordered visitation if they can prove they've had an ongoing relationship with the grandchildren and that visitation is in the children's best interest. Patricia's petition claimed she'd been a primary caregiver, that we were alienating her from the children without cause, and that the children's welfare required continued contact with her. She didn't sue for custody. Rebecca thought she'd realized the recordings made that impossible. But she went for court-ordered visitation, which would legally require us to give her access to Emma and Luke on a regular schedule. She's claiming parental alienation, Rebecca explained. She's saying you're cutting her off from the children to punish her, not because there's a legitimate reason. If the court believes her, they could order visitation despite your objections. But we have recordings. We do, and we'll use them. But grandparents' rights cases can be unpredictable. The court's priority is the children's best interest, and judges sometimes believe maintaining family relationships is inherently beneficial. The court date was set for October 15, 2021. 3 months to prepare. 3 months of Patricia's lawyer sending discovery requests and depositions. 3 months of stress. Patricia's attorney deposed me for 6 hours. She asked about every parenting decision I'd ever made, every time I'd raised my voice, every moment of struggle or doubt. She asked about my mental health, my postpartum depression, my marriage. Isn't it true that you called your mother-in-law crying, asking for help because you couldn't handle your children? I had a difficult day and asked family for support. Yes or no, Mrs. Foster, did you call asking for help? Yes. And isn't it true that your house is frequently untidy? I have two small children. The house isn't always perfect, yes or no? Sometimes it's messy, yes. And your mother-in-law helped clean it, didn't she? She did uninvited, yes or no? On and on, twisting every normal parenting moment into evidence of my inadequacy. They deposed Daniel, too, asked why he worked such long hours, why he'd given his mother a key, why he'd allowed her to provide so much childcare. I thought she was being helpful, Daniel said. I didn't realize she had ulterior motives. Or, perhaps, Patricia's attorney suggested, she was being genuinely helpful because you and your wife needed help. The worst part was watching Patricia testify in her deposition. She cried, actually cried, talking about how much she loved Emma and Luke, how she'd been there for every milestone, how she'd sacrificed so much to help us. I just want to see my grandchildren, she said, dabbing her eyes. I don't understand why Catherine is keeping them from me. I've never done anything but love those children and try to help their mother. It was a masterful performance. If I didn't have recordings proving she'd planned to sue for custody, I might have believed her myself. But we had the recordings, and Rebecca was brilliant about presenting them. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Linda Morrison presiding, known for being tough but fair on family law cases. Patricia arrived with her lawyer and a whole support system, her sisters, her friends from Bridge Club, character witnesses who testify to what a wonderful grandmother she was. We had Daniel, Rebecca, Dr. Stevens, and the truth. Patricia's attorney went first, calling witness after witness to testify about her close relationship with Emma and Luke. They talked about how the children lit up when they saw Grandma, how they loved staying at her house, how she'd been present for birthdays and holidays and everyday moments. Then Patricia testified. She talked about being a widow, about raising Daniel alone, about how much family meant to her. She talked about stepping in to help when I was struggling, about loving her grandchildren unconditionally, about being devastated when we suddenly cut her off. I don't know what I did wrong, she said, tears flowing. One day I was helping with the children and the next I was locked out. They changed the locks. They won't return my calls. I haven't seen Emma and Luke in 3 months. It's breaking my heart. Mrs. Patterson, in your opinion, is it in the children's best interest to have a relationship with you? Absolutely. I love those children. They need their grandmother. Then Rebecca cross-examined her. Mrs. Patterson, did you have a key to the Fosters' home? Yes, Daniel gave me one. Did you use that key to enter their home when they weren't present? Sometimes to help clean or drop things off. Yes or no? Did you enter without permission? I had a key. I had permission. Did you have permission to document the state of their home, to photograph their private spaces, to go through their bedroom? Patricia's face tightened. I was concerned. Yes or no, Mrs. Patterson? I took some photos, yes. For what purpose? I wanted to document my concerns about the children's environment. You were building a custody case, weren't you? I was concerned for my grandchildren's welfare. Isn't it true that you consulted with an attorney about seeking full custody? Silence. Mrs. Patterson, please answer. I spoke to a lawyer, yes, about my options. About seeking full custody of Emma and Luke. It was just a consultation. Rebecca pulled out a transcript of the recording, the phone call where Patricia had explicitly stated she was seeking full custody. She played the audio in court. Patricia's voice clear and cold. I'm seeking full custody with supervised visitation for Catherine. Those children aren't safe with her. I want this done before she realizes what's happening. The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward, her expression hardening. Mrs. Patterson, Judge Morrison said, you testified under oath that you wanted visitation to maintain your relationship with your grandchildren. This recording suggests you wanted custody. Which is it? I was upset when I said that. I didn't mean. You told your attorney you were seeking full custody. You asked when you could file. This wasn't an emotional outburst. This was planning. Rebecca continued. She played more recordings. Patricia coaching Emma to say Mommy was mean. Patricia telling Luke that Grandma's house was better. Patricia admitting to her sister on the phone that she needed to get Catherine declared unfit so Daniel would see reason. Every recording dismantled Patricia's narrative of the concerned, loving grandmother. She wasn't concerned about the children's welfare. She was concerned about maintaining control. Then Dr. Stevens testified. She explained postpartum depression, normalized parental struggles, and confirmed that I was mentally sound and fully capable of parenting my children. Is Mrs. Foster an unfit mother? Absolutely not. She's a dedicated parent going through normal adjustment struggles. She sought help appropriately. She's stable, capable, and very devoted to her children. Daniel testified, too, about his mother's increasing intrusion, about how we'd trusted her and she'd betrayed that trust, about finding the recordings and realizing her wife had been right all along. Do you believe it's in your children's best interest to have unsupervised visitation with your mother? No, she's proven she can't be trusted. She was actively working to take them from us. That's not love, that's obsession. Finally, Rebecca called me. I was terrified, but I'd practiced with Rebecca for weeks. Mrs. Foster, why did you install nanny cameras? My therapist warned me that my mother-in-law might be building a custody case. I needed to document what was really happening in my home versus what she was claiming. Why didn't you trust your mother-in-law? Because she'd been undermining me from the day my daughter was born. She made it clear she thought she knew better, that she should be making decisions about my children. I felt like she was trying to replace me rather than support me. And what did the recordings show? That my instincts were right. She was building a case. She was documenting my every imperfection while ignoring that I was a loving, capable mother. She was coaching my children to prefer her house, and she was actively planning to sue for custody. Mrs. Foster, do you believe supervised visitation with Mrs. Patterson is in your children's best interest? I thought about Emma asking me why Grandma wasn't coming over anymore, about Luke saying he missed Grandma's house, about the guilt I felt keeping them apart. But I also thought about Patricia telling Emma that Mommy was sick, about her searching my bedroom for evidence against me, about her planning to take them away. No, I said firmly, I don't believe any visitation is in their best interest right now. She was willing to traumatize my children and destroy our family to get what she wanted. That's not someone who should have access to them. Judge Morrison took a 15-minute recess to review the evidence. When she came back, her expression was severe. I've reviewed the recordings, the testimony, and the documented history of this relationship. This is one of the more troubling grandparents' rights cases I've seen. Patricia sat up straighter, hopeful. Mrs. Patterson, you came into this court claiming you wanted visitation to maintain a loving relationship with your grandchildren. The evidence shows something very different. Your Honor, I'm not finished. The recordings demonstrate that you were not acting in the children's best interest. You were systematically building a custody case, documenting every imperfection in the parents' home while ignoring that they are competent, loving caregivers. You coached the children to prefer your home. You entered their residence without permission to gather evidence. And most damning, you explicitly stated your intention to seek full custody and have Mrs. Foster's parenting supervised. I was just concerned. You were not concerned, Mrs. Patterson. You were manipulative. You weaponized your role as grandmother to undermine the parents and position yourself as the superior caregiver. This court will not reward that behavior. Judge Morrison looked at her notes, then back at Patricia. Petition for grandparents' visitation is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a protective order. Mrs. Patterson, you are prohibited from contacting the minor children or entering the foster's property for a period of 2 years. Any contact with Emma or Luke Foster must be approved in writing by both parents and supervised by a third party of their choosing. Patricia gasped. 2 years? Your Honor, please. You attempted to manipulate the court and destroy your son's family for your own gratification. Be grateful I'm not referring this matter for criminal investigation regarding your unauthorized entry into their home. This order is effective immediately. The gavel came down. Patricia stood up, face red, voice rising. Daniel, you can't let her do this. I'm your mother. Those are my grandchildren. Daniel stood too, his face sad but resolute. They're my children, Mom, mine and Catherine's, and you tried to take them. I can't forgive that. I raised you. I sacrificed everything for you. This is how you repay me? You didn't do it for me, Mom. You did it for control, and I'm not giving you that anymore. Patricia's lawyer let her out, still protesting, still crying. Her support system followed, shooting us dark looks. When the courtroom cleared, I broke down. 2 years of stress, months of fear, weeks of preparation, it all came out in great, heaving sobs. Rebecca hugged me. You did it. You protected your kids. She's going to hate me forever. Let her. You were right. She was wrong. That's all that matters. Daniel drove us home in silence. When we pulled into our driveway, he turned to me. I'm so sorry for everything, for not believing you, for choosing her, for letting it get this far. You believed me when it mattered. I should have believed you from the start. You're my wife. You're my children's mother. You should have been my first priority all along. We sat in the car while Emma and Luke were still at the friend's house where they'd stayed during the trial, and we talked, really talked, for the first time in months, about how his mother had controlled him his whole life, about how he'd never learned to set boundaries because he'd never needed to, about how her widowhood had made him feel responsible for her happiness. I enabled her, he admitted. I gave her too much access, too much authority. I let her undermine you because it was easier than confronting her. What changes now? Everything. He gets nothing unless we both agree. No key, no unsupervised visits, not that she's legally allowed any. No decisions about our kids, nothing. And if she violates the protective order, then I call the police. She's my mother, but Emma and Luke are my children. They come first. It was the conversation we should have had years ago, but at least we were having it now. Patricia tried to contact us 17 times in the first month after the court order. Emails, texts, calls from blocked numbers, letters delivered by her friends, even packages sent to Emma and Luke with notes saying, "Grandma loves you and misses you." Each contact was a violation of the protective order. After the 5th one, Rebecca filed a motion to show cause. Patricia was brought back before Judge Morrison and fined $2,000. She was warned that continued violations would result in jail time. The contacts stopped. But the consequences didn't. Patricia's friends from Bridge Club who'd been in court, they'd seen everything. They'd heard the recordings. The story spread through her social circle like wildfire. The woman who'd been so concerned about her grandchildren's welfare had actually been plotting to steal them. The devoted grandmother had been a manipulative controller. The helpful mother-in-law had been secretly documenting her daughter-in-law to build a custody case. Patricia lost her position on the church board. Her bridge club asked her to leave. Several of her longtime friends stopped calling. I didn't take pleasure in it, watching someone lose their social standing. Even someone who tried to destroy my family felt hollow. But it was the natural consequence of her actions. She'd built a reputation on being the perfect grandmother, and the truth had demolished it. Daniel struggled most with the aftermath. He was grieving the mother he'd thought he had, grieving the relationship he'd believed was healthy, grieving the family structure he'd grown up with. "I keep thinking about my childhood," he said one night. "All the time she made decisions for me, all the time she said it was for my own good. I thought she was being a devoted parent, but she was being controlling." "She loved you," I said. "I don't doubt that. She just didn't know where love ended and control began." Did she love me, or did she love owning me? It was a question he'd have to answer in therapy, something he'd started after the trial. He was unpacking 35 years of enmeshment with a parent who'd never let him become fully independent. As for Emma and Luke, they adjusted surprisingly well. Emma asked about Grandma Patricia a few times in the first weeks. "Why doesn't Grandma come over anymore?" "Grandma made some choices that weren't kind," I explained carefully. "She needs to take some time to think about those choices. Maybe someday she'll be ready to be a better grandma, but not right now." "Did she do something bad?" "Yes, she did something that hurt our family, yes." Emma accepted this with the emotional flexibility of a 5-year-old. Within a month, she'd stopped asking. Luke, at 3, barely remembered the change. I worried they'd miss her, but kids are resilient. And honestly, they were happier. There was no more coaching to prefer Grandma's house, no more subtle undermining of my authority, no more confusion about who was in charge. Just our little family, healing and rebuilding. 6 months after the trial, something unexpected happened. I got a call from a woman named Andrea. "Mrs. Foster, my name is Andrea Chin. I got your contact information from your attorney, Rebecca Tam. I hope it's okay that I'm calling." "How can I help you?" "I'm going through something similar. My mother-in-law is threatening to sue for grandparents' rights. Rebecca mentioned you'd been through this and won. I wondered if you'd be willing to talk to me. I feel so alone." We talked for 2 hours. Her story was eerily familiar. Manipulative mother-in-law, husband who couldn't set boundaries, systematic documentation of every parenting imperfection, threats to take action if she didn't let the children spend more time with their grandmother. "I don't know what to do," Andrea said, her voice breaking. "Everyone tells me I'm being unreasonable, that grandparents should be involved, but it doesn't feel like involvement, it feels like a takeover." "You're not being unreasonable," I said. "Trust your instincts. If it feels wrong, it probably is. And document everything. I mean everything." I told her about the nanny cams, about keeping a journal, about getting a therapist who could testify to my mental fitness if needed. I gave her Rebecca's contact information and offered to speak to her attorney if it would help. After we hung up, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation, how isolated I felt going through this, how I thought I was crazy or oversensitive or ungrateful, how validating it would have been to talk to someone who'd been through it. I called Rebecca. "How many cases like mine do you handle?" "Grandparents' rights cases? Maybe a dozen a year. They're increasing as more grandparents learn they can petition for visitation or custody." "How many of them involve manipulation like Patricia's?" "More than you'd think. Not always as blatant, but the pattern is common. Grandparent provides significant child care, parents become dependent on that help, grandparents start making decisions and undermining parental authority, parents try to set boundaries, grandparent threatens or files for legal rights." "Why doesn't anyone talk about this?" because people don't want to believe grandparents can be manipulative. Society has this image of loving cookie-baking grandmas, the idea that they might be controlling or harmful. It doesn't fit the narrative. 3 months later, I started a support group for parents dealing with toxic grandparent situations. I called it Boundaries and Balance, a support group for parents navigating difficult grandparent relationships. We met every other Tuesday evening at the community center near our house. The first meeting, I expected maybe 5 people. 23 showed up. 23 parents, mostly mothers, dealing with grandparents who wouldn't respect boundaries. Some were facing grandparents' rights lawsuits. Others were dealing with emotional manipulation, guilt trips, and systematic undermining. All of them felt alone, felt crazy, felt like bad people for wanting to protect their children from their own family members. "I feel guilty even being here," one woman said. "My mother-in-law just wants to see her grandkids. Who am I to keep them apart?" "You're their mother," another woman said, "and if your gut is telling you something's wrong, listen to it." We went around the circle, each person sharing their story. The patterns were startlingly similar. Grandparents who believed they had rights to their grandchildren, regardless of the parents' wishes. Grandparents who provided childcare and then used that caregiving as leverage to make demands. Grandparents who documented the parents' every imperfection while positioning themselves as superior caregivers. Grandparents who turned family members against the parents, claiming they were being alienated from their grandchildren. Grandparents who couldn't distinguish between being supportive and being controlling. "I thought it was just me," one mother said, crying. "I thought I was being ungrateful. My mother-in-law watches my kids 2 days a week, and she keeps telling me I should be more thankful, but she criticizes everything I do. She rearranges my house when she's there. She feeds my kids things I've asked her not to, and when I set boundaries, she cries and tells my husband I'm keeping the kids from her." "You're not being ungrateful," I said. "Help that comes with strings attached isn't really help. It's control disguised as generosity." The group became a lifeline for these parents. We shared strategies, how to set boundaries, how to document concerning behavior, how to have difficult conversations with spouses who were loyal to their parents, how to navigate grandparents' rights laws in Oregon. I brought in experts, family lawyers like Rebecca, who explained legal rights, therapists like Dr. Stevens, who talked about enmeshment and healthy family dynamics, even a mediator who discussed how to have productive conversations with difficult relatives. But mostly, we just listened to each other, validated each other, reminded each other that setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad person, it makes you a protective parent. The group grew. By the end of the first year, we had 40 regular members and a waiting list. I started a Facebook group for parents who couldn't attend in person. Within 6 months, it had 3,000 members from across the country, all dealing with toxic grandparent situations. The stories were heartbreaking and infuriating in equal measure. A grandmother who called CPS on her daughter-in-law, claiming child abuse because the parents wouldn't let her have the kids for Christmas. A grandfather who filed for custody after his son came out as gay, claiming the children needed a stable home environment. A grandmother who fed a child with severe allergies the forbidden food to prove the parents were exaggerating about the allergy. The child ended up in the ER. A grandmother who told her teenage grandchildren that their mother had been promiscuous in high school and that's why they needed to be careful about her influence. Horror story after horror story of grandparents who loved their grandchildren but couldn't respect that they weren't the parents. But there were success stories, parents who set boundaries and had them respected, families who went to mediation and worked out arrangements that honored everyone's needs, grandparents who, confronted with their behavior, actually did the work to change. And there were courtroom victories, parents who documented abuse or manipulation and won protective orders, parents who successfully defended against grandparents' rights petitions because they had evidence and preparation. My story became a template. The nanny cam footage, the documentation, the therapist's testimony, other parents copied the strategy and won their own cases. Rebecca told me I'd probably prevented dozens of families from losing custody battles just by sharing what worked for us. She said, "You turned your trauma into advocacy. That's powerful." I didn't feel powerful. I just felt like someone who'd been through hell and didn't want others to go through it alone. 2 years after the court order, Patricia sent a letter. Not to our home, she knew that would violate the protective order, but to Rebecca's office, addressed to me through my attorney. Rebecca called me when it arrived. "Patricia sent you a letter. Do you want me to read it first?" "Is it threatening?" "No, it's an apology letter. At least, it's trying to be." "I don't know if I want to read it." "That's completely your choice. I can destroy it if you want, or I can hold on to it until you're ready. No pressure." I thought about it for 3 days. Finally, I asked Rebecca to read it to me over the phone. I didn't want to see Patricia's handwriting, didn't want to hold the paper in my hands, but I needed to know what she'd said. Rebecca read, "Dear Catherine, I've started this letter 100 times and deleted it 99. I don't know how to say what I need to say because words feel inadequate for what I've done. I was wrong about everything. The way I treated you, the way I inserted myself into your family, the way I tried to take your children. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I've been in therapy for 18 months now. My therapist helped me see that I wasn't being a helpful grandmother. I was being a controlling mother who couldn't let go of my son and projected that control onto your family. I convinced myself I knew best, that you needed me, that the children would be better off with more of my influence. But the truth is, I couldn't accept that Daniel had built a life that didn't center on me. When Samuel died, Daniel's father, I made Daniel my entire world. I didn't date, didn't have hobbies, didn't build a life outside of being his mother. When he grew up and married you, I felt like I was losing my identity, so I tried to make myself essential to your family. I told myself it was about loving my grandchildren, but really it was about needing to be needed. What I did was inexcusable. I tried to take your children. I documented your normal parenting struggles like they were evidence of abuse. I coached Emma and Luke to prefer me. I violated your privacy and your trust. I weaponized my role as grandmother to undermine your role as mother. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect a relationship. I'm writing this because my therapist says I need to take accountability without expectation of absolution. So here it is. I was wrong. I hurt you, I hurt Daniel, and I hurt Emma and Luke by putting my needs above theirs. I'm not asking to see the children. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did. I understand why you did what you had to do. And if you never want to hear from me again, I'll respect that. I hope you and your family are well. Patricia." Rebecca finished reading. I sat in silence, processing. "What do you think?" Rebecca asked. I think she finally gets it, or she's starting to." "Do you want to respond?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to believe she's changed, but part of me remembers her in that courtroom crying and claiming she'd done nothing wrong. How do I know this isn't just another manipulation?" "You don't, honestly. People can change, but it takes sustained effort and time. A letter is words. Changed behavior is proof." I talked to Daniel about it that night. He read the letter himself, his face going through a complicated range of emotions. "I want to believe her," he said finally. "She's my mom. I want to believe she's capable of change." But I don't trust her. Maybe I never will again." What if she really has changed? Then I'm glad for her, but that doesn't mean we have to let her back into our lives. She tried to take our kids, Catherine. That's not something I can just get over because she went to therapy. We decided not to respond to the letter. Not yet. Maybe never ever. Patricia had made her apology, and we acknowledged it by reading it. But we didn't owe her forgiveness, didn't owe her access, didn't owe her anything. The protective order expired 6 months later. Patricia made no attempt to contact us. No emails, no letters, no accidental encounters at places she knew we'd be. She respected the boundary. That was new. A year after her letter, Daniel ran into her at the grocery store. He came home shaken. She looked older, he said, thinner. She saw me and just nodded, didn't try to talk to me, didn't approach me, just acknowledged me and went on shopping. How did that feel? Sad, but also like maybe she really is trying to respect our boundaries. Do you want to reach out? He thought about it for a long time. Not yet. Maybe someday, but not yet. Emma was 7 now, Luke was 5. They barely remembered Patricia. When they asked about Grandma Patricia, which happened rarely, we told them the truth in age-appropriate ways. Grandma Patricia made choices that hurt our family. She's working on being better, but we need to keep our family safe. They accepted this. Kids need consistency and security more than they need relationships with every blood relative. So here we are. You've been with me through this whole journey, from that rainy day when my mother-in-law first showed her true intentions, to the moment I installed nanny cams, to the courtroom victory, to building a support group that's helped hundreds of families. What did you think? Did this resonate with you? Are you dealing with difficult in-laws or grandparents who won't respect boundaries? Drop a comment and tell me. I want to hear your story. Let me tell you what I've learned through all of this. Lessons that almost destroyed my family, but ultimately made us stronger. First, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I spent years being told I was ungrateful, paranoid, oversensitive, but my gut was right. Patricia wasn't being helpful, she was being controlling. If your instincts are screaming that someone is crossing boundaries, listen to them. Second, document everything. Everything. The nanny cam saved my family. Without that footage, it would have been my word against Patricia's, and courts often side with grandparents who present well. Recordings, journals, screenshots of texts, witnesses who can verify behavior. Document it all. You might never need it, but if you do, you'll be grateful you have it. Third, being family doesn't give someone the right to access your children. Blood relation doesn't equal automatic trust. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, if they're harmful, manipulative, or boundary violating, you have every right to limit or eliminate contact. Your children's safety and well-being matter more than family politics. Fourth, you can't fix toxic people, but you can protect yourself from them. Patricia's behavior was about her issues, her inability to let go of control, her fear of becoming irrelevant, her enmeshed relationship with Daniel. I couldn't fix that. I could only protect my kids from the fallout. Fifth, support systems matter. The support group I started taught me that isolation is how toxic people maintain control. When you connect with others facing similar situations, you realize you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you have options. Find your people, build your community. Sixth, setting boundaries doesn't make you the bad guy. I felt guilty for years about keeping the kids from their grandmother, but I wasn't keeping them from a healthy relationship. I was protecting them from a toxic one. There's a difference. Healthy grandparenting involves respecting the parent's authority. What Patricia wanted wasn't a relationship, it was ownership. And finally, healing takes time, but it is possible. Our family is stronger now than we've ever been. Daniel and I communicate better. We're a united front on parenting decisions. We've built a life that works for us, not for external expectations. Emma and Luke are thriving, and I've turned my trauma into advocacy that's helping other families. If you're watching this right now and you're dealing with a toxic grandparent situation, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not being selfish or ungrateful or cruel. You're being a protective parent. That's your job. You don't owe anyone access to your children, no matter how much they guilt trip you or how loudly they cry grandparents' rights. Your children's safety, physical, emotional, psychological, is your responsibility. Not maintaining family peace, not making grandparents happy. Your kids' well-being, that's it. And if you're a grandparent watching this, please, please learn from Patricia's mistakes. Being a grandparent is a privilege, not a right. You can be involved without being controlling. You can be helpful without being intrusive. You can love your grandchildren without undermining their parents. Respect boundaries, support rather than criticize, accept that your adult children get to make their own parenting decisions, even if you disagree with them. Be the grandparent your family wants around, not the one they dread dealing with. To everyone watching, if this story resonated with you, I need you to do something. Hit that like button. It helps other people find this story, and someone out there might be in the middle of this nightmare right now and needs to know they're not alone. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss future stories about family dynamics, setting boundaries, and standing up for yourself and your children. Share this video. Share it with someone who's dealing with difficult in-laws. Share it with someone who needs permission to set boundaries. Share it with someone who feels guilty for protecting their kids from toxic relatives. This message needs to reach the people who need it. And drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Are you dealing with a difficult grandparent situation? Have you had to set hard boundaries with family? What's one thing you're taking away from this story? Let's build a community here where we support each other in protecting our families. I also want to give a shout out to the Boundaries and Balance support group. If you're in the Portland area and need support navigating difficult grandparent relationships, we meet every other Tuesday. If you're not local, find us on Facebook. We have thousands of members sharing resources, legal information, and support. You don't have to go through this alone. You don't have to figure it out by yourself. There are people who understand, who've been through it, who can help you protect your family while maintaining your sanity. 4 years ago, I was standing in the rain, locked out of my own home by my mother-in-law, feeling helpless and trapped. Today, I run a support group that's helped hundreds of families. My kids are thriving, my marriage is stronger than ever, and I know that I did the right thing. You can get there too. Whether you're at the beginning of this journey or somewhere in the middle, whether you're just noticing the red flags or you're already in a legal battle, whether you're trying to decide if you're overreacting or you know for certain something's wrong, you can protect your family. You can set boundaries. You can survive this. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring enough to watch until the end. Thank you for being part of this community that says parents get to parent and boundaries are non-negotiable. This is Catherine Foster reminding you, your kids, your rules, your family, your boundaries, your instincts, your trust. Stand firm, stand strong, and never apologize for protecting your children. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.